Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wisdom Exchange 15, I think it is. And as you can see, we've got a little bit of a different setup that I'm trying today. I've got my new whiteboard. Well, I used it last time, but this time it's hanging up. So I hope you can hear me and see me okay, and I hope everyone is doing well. Today, we're going to talk about a really interesting topic, which is all going to be called Battle for the Soul. And we can see that phrase being used a lot. For example, in Joe Biden, when he was campaigning, he talked about battle for the soul of America. And what I want to talk about goes really to the root today of personal development, religions, mythologies, and it's really battle for the soul. So battle for your soul, for my soul, really the human condition. So I really want to talk about what battle for the soul means is really how to live without regret. How to live that you're fully expressing yourself. You don't feel like you are trapped in any way, but you also don't feel like you're being just led by your emotions, and that you're really empowered, that you are empowered to do the things you want to do, and you're not restricted by yourself and you're not restricted by the outside world. And so I'll just give some examples for this. For example, when people are younger, they're often egged on by their friends in situations. It could be, when they're in their teenagers or 20s to drink things or to take substances they don't want to do or do certain things. In a job setting or a domestic setting, it could be taking too much on that you can't handle and then regretting it after, or not doing what you want, whether it be the subjects that you choose in school or university, or the career, or being forced in a relationship or marriage, like we see in the South Asian culture, or being slightly pressured to eat something, um, you know, where that you do regret after. So whether that be, maybe you have a health condition, you want to stay healthy, and you're tempted to eat something and you regret it after. And notice all of these things are not necessarily bad in a certain way if you want to do them, but they all have a common theme, which is you regret after. So it means that at that time, it doesn't align with what you actually wanted to do afterwards. And so I would say that this is in a slightly drunken state where you are in a situation and you're not aligned fully with what your soul desires, right? So it's really a battle for the soul because you're in this drunken state. You don't want to, you're doing things that you don't really want to do at your core values. And so, how can we win the battle for our soul? What is this battle that's going on? And why are we doing things that we regret afterwards, right? Because you can feel that when you're not doing the things, you feel like you're in a battle and you feel a lot of regret. And when people die, a lot of the time before they die, if they have lived the life that they wanted to do, they will feel like they've lived their soul's purpose or their expression of their being. And that's something that's very hard to express logically. And so, this battle for the soul is such a good way of encapsulating this. And so, it comes down to not sticking to your values. And given the examples I just talked about, Um, that's why in a lot of religions and a lot of communities and a lot of wise civilizations of the past, they talked about keeping a community, keeping like-minded conscious people around you, and keeping what we call a sangat, or just a conscious community of people, like-minded people, but not necessarily having the same belief systems as you, but what they do have in common is they strive to gain virtue over their vices. So what I mean by this, like what the Greek said, is they strive to win the battle of for their soul. So whatever the people do in your life, when you're in a, like we talked about, if you're in situation around people who complain all the time, who are maybe smoking or eating unhealthily, and you're spending a lot of energy resisting that energy in a group rather than actually building and creating and breaking the patterns and going further in the group. If you're going on a hike and you've invited people who don't want to go on that hike, you're going to spend a lot of energy either breaking off from these people and going by yourself, or listening to their complaints all the time. Or if you're trying to quit alcohol and you keep going to the same buddies but just for the company but not drinking alcohol, you're going to spend a lot of time resisting, versus you're not in a pub and you're doing something, maybe you're doing a sports or something that you like. So in this battle for a soul, what I want to say is also keeping good company, keeping a good tribe, keeping a good sangat, whatever you want to call it, is noticing, are you around people that are complaining all the time or that are in the patterns that you don't want to be in. A good example is when I was at university, I was going to the gym a lot. I was surrounded by young people, motivated people. Actually, it doesn't matter what age they are. There were professors in the gym and everything. When I was in a working environment, people are in an office environment, there is a psychological belief of disempowerment where they're sitting a lot. They don't really want to get up from their desks. Maybe the diet they're eating is maybe just chips from the canteen, can of Coke. And, it's a bit disempowering. And if you've read Nancy Klein's book, she talks a bit about how in the office environment, it can be designed to be empowering or disempowering, like you don't belong here, you're not needed. So this is all designing your environment, both physically and socially, that strives to win the battle for the soul. Not necessarily people who are wanting to directly give you empowerment, but are trying to empower themselves, and therefore you will feel that as well to win the battle for your soul. So I hope that puts in context about what areas of life it can cover, from relationships to diet to exercise, and how that battle for the soul, it goes past through kind of all the conditionings and everything of the world, and it goes to your core values. So at the same time of the outside world, there is also the internal pressure of your vices, right? So you might have heard from different religions, maybe like the Indian culture or from the Christianity or the Greek culture, you have your jealousy, you have your anger, you have things like greed. And so when you're surrounded by people who are jealous, who are angry, who are greedy, who are complaining, who are chasing after money, what's that effect going to be on you? Because the human mind is neuroplastic, So when you're surrounding yourself by that, how is that affecting you? And so that's the external world. But now there's also internal world of the vices. When you're alone, how does that play upon you? So knowing, that's why one of the wisdom exchanges was called the power of being alone. So knowing how that plays out in you and knowing what vices have a play over your soul, right? And then when you go into the external world, that can draw your vices even more, because maybe you're around people who put you in these situations. And so does your vices run over your soul? And maybe you're offered a cake and you're tantalizing, you don't want it, but you take it. And so the vice runs over your soul. Or you're offered this how to get money fast, and you're putting money in and you haven't done much research, and your money goes down the drain. Again, the vices are running over the soul, right? Or maybe there's some gossiping and you shouldn't participate, but you jump in it anyway. Or anger, right? You want to say something, you should bite your tongue, but you say it anyway. Again, the vices have got the driver over the soul. And so knowing the internal vices and how they can act up is then very important. So far then we've covered the what really means the battle for the soul, how it comes in external and internal environment of the vices, and how we can notice these patterns. Then I want to cover really the two types of knowledge, which is worldly knowledge. So you look at the sciences, how we've come a long way since the past, right? You look at everything from fashion design and textiles. Our textile industry has gone a long way, all the way to engineering. Our engineering industry has changed, electronic and information. They're all worldly knowledge, right? So it's the way we go about things, we do things materially, and yeah, our knowledge of the world, of the sciences. But then there's this other type of knowledge, again, that median beady, the knowledge that doesn't change and that's kind of evergreen and eternal. And this knowledge is what we call wisdom, or in Sikh culture, we call gyan. And this knowledge or wisdom is really the nature of nature. It's the understanding of the human condition and the universal patterns at play. And so, even if you had textiles, 1,000 years ago versus textiles now, the same universal patterns that govern whether humans like something or not was still at play, no matter how good the textile materials are, right? Or no matter how good the science is in terms of trying to do something, the application and why we're trying to do something, it still goes to that higher wisdom, right, of why we're trying to apply that science. So you can see how that meaty beady works and how that higher wisdom plays into the worldly knowledge. But I just want to make that distinction so you know what kind of wisdom, what kind of knowledge is needed for the battle of the soul. Is it the worldly knowledge or is it the wisdom? And because I talked about the mythology, the religions of the past, and all these things, it relates to the wisdom, right? So humans have known this before, the battle for the soul. It's really the human condition. And so we just tell these stories in new ways. So it's really when we must overcome both the vices, external and internal, to live an empowered life that we want. And so we see this, and sorry if you hear the rain, it's raining. And also, it's a good example that it's raining, it's grey in Scotland, and that's like a battle for the soul because sometimes you want to go for a run outside, but we feel it's raining and like that. But when we've aligned ourselves inside that, no, we want to go for a run, then we have, won that battle for the soul and we just go outside. So, for example, we see this in Marvel, like in different movies. Like we'll see the battle of the hero against the villain, like Marvel characters, the pantheon of Marvel against Thanos, right? Or you see this in like Star Wars or Harry Potter, or different mythologies like Mahabharata or the Greek mythologies. You'll see the different gods playing, right? So it's all the gods playing within us, trying to defeat the devils within us. And so in the Sikh culture, Sikh tradition, there is also, I think Guru Gobind Singh said, the way we try to win this battle for the soul, explain the truth, is that in Hindu mythology, there used to be a bull that holds the world on its horns, and then what holds the bull is a turtle. This is like a mythology representation. And so there was a god fighting a demon, and every time that demon was cut, it splayed blood all over the place, and more demons would spawn. And so the nature of winning this battle for the soul in the mind is not just cutting the demons 1,000 times, but just doing one cut. But the nature of that strike, the nature of us saying no, resisting that cake, or saying yes, I will run outside, or I will choose that career path. The nature of that conviction and that decision is such in this story. It's like when you strike that demon, you don't just do a cut, a little cut and trying a little bit half-heartedly, so more demons can spawn, and so you have to deal with them. It's more like you have to cut straight through the demon, and so that cuts straight through the earth. It cuts straight through the horns that the bull that holds the earth. It cuts straight through the bull, and cracks the turtle shell and cuts the turtle shell as well. So this is a symbolism in that the nature of how we do things, the nature of how we speak, should be so aligned with how we are, um, and we can practice that, of course, that won't spawn all these more different vices that we cut straight through the thing in front of us, but also cut straight through what the connotations are of that thing. So if someone's trying to, um, you know, tempt us with something, that the nature of our response cuts through everything, cuts through that facade, but also everything behind it. So I wanted to share that because I think it's quite a nice analogy, an allegory for the way we turn up in that world. So again, it turns up through different, like I said, poetry, like we talked about, symbolism and motif. So if you think about epic movie soundtracks or orchestra choir, you'll hear like these epic soundtracks and motifs and symbolisms. For example, like Duel of Fates in Star Wars, you'll hear it's very epic, and you'll hear like the evil coming in, the good coming in, and the vices and the virtues, and they're fighting. And it's epic and everything, and it can be epic if we're doing a big thing in life. But it's also kind of epic in a small way. Again, when we're there and we're offered by a temptation, like maybe I don't know, think about something in your life that you've been tempted by, and you were unsure of, and you didn't really want to do it, and at that split second, you know, it could be something that we don't want to do, but there's a battle inside, right? And that's that epic battle. That's why we see ourselves in that movies. It's not really a god and demons, but it's the god and demons inside us that are fighting. And like Duel of Fates, Anakin Skywalker, like who's gone evil into Darth Vader, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's really the duel of fates. It's the battle for the soul inside of us. So in that split second, when that thing happens, there's a battle within us that we're going to try to win. And so we'll do some examples here. I've got a whiteboard. Order versus chaos. Chaos is like the vices, right? So you can see it's very cracked, it's very chaotic. Um, it's got a lot of life force energy, but it's unfiltered and it's uncontrolled. So anger, jealousy, greed, it just has that chaotic, right? But then at the same time, we have the excess. We have this can be an allegory of like, for example, society, right? That they're trying to sometimes lock you in to control the vices. So you feel like you're trying to control yourself too much. So you might lock yourself, and now you might become shameful or regret, or instead of being angry that you're holding it in and you're holding contempt, right? And you're feeling shame, you're feeling locked, you know. So you're not expressing yourself, but at the same time, it's an excess. So again, we'll put this. So I hope you understand it in an abstract setting. But now, if you think about um, how it plays out in the real world, when you have a vice, for example, if you have you're wanting to in a society, you wanted to run away in a short-term relationship, and your vices are playing over your soul. You know it's not good for you, but at the same time, the devices have played over the soul, and now it's taken captive. Or like you're jealous of something in a situation, um, or you want to do this crazy job or career, right? But then the society comes in, and they'll, like in South Asian society, and they'll say, no, you have to do this subject. You have to do this. It's like a paternalistic force. You have to do this subject, or you have to get arranged marriage to this person, or you have to, um, or you should be ashamed for feeling like this. But what this does is this buries the vices, and on the outside setting, it looks like you've conquered the vices, but all it's done is it's locked and it's imprisoned this. And so in arranged marriage, oh yeah, it's good. The person's been in the marriage for 20, 30 years and it's good, right? Or yeah, he's a amazing doctor or lawyer, but I'm not trying to diss doctor or lawyers, but I'm just trying to say from a society perspective. But these unfiltered emotions are still at play underneath, right? The cell. So this is an example of order versus chaos, and it can play out in, you can see how it can play out in a individual to a societal perspective, and how it can lock you in. I'm trying to do a good job to explain this, but hopefully you get the idea. So as you can see for these two examples, like a marriage example or a career example, that you can be kind of locked in this way. And so the virtues can help us, right? The virtues can help us understand the vices, but understand the excesses, controlling the vices and meeting them, but also not being locked by the outside world and able to have a free flow state of us, again, being in a flow state, emptying our mind, but at the same time, allowing the emotions to be, allowing us to express ourselves, again, going slow, but then not being locked, being able to express ourselves in a virtue setting. So, no, this is very abstract, but you can see how this plays out. And so the way in not to be trapped by our vices, like all the ancient people say, not to be trapped by these quick things in the world that makes us be drawn to temptation and make us feel regret and make us kind of lose this battle for the soul. But at the same time, not being disempowered and maybe people trying to control our outcomes or the outside world controlling our outcomes. And so we're being stuck in this excess, we're being stuck in the shame or the guilt or the blame, for our vices, or we're being stuck in this, but actually realizing that at the end that there is no battle. There's no battle for the soul. Maybe it starts as this battle for the soul because we experience it on the outside. It seems like a battle, and also because on the inside it's a battle. But actually, when we submit to the higher values and the higher virtues, then this we can realize this submission to this virtues or values because either we've gone through this vices so many times, maybe we've drunk or taken substances that we didn't want to take many times, maybe we've ate so many chocolate biscuits and we regret it so many times, maybe we've gone out and kept going on our phone too much or sleeping too late and we regret this. And also we don't want to restrict ourselves. We're tired of this pattern, and so we just honor trying to do it correctly, right? That's the only option we have left, so we just submit to that. Or we don't want to, we just look at that and we say we don't want to do that in the first place. I've never done it and I don't really want to do it. And so we already naturally, instinctually, intuitively, we honor the natural virtues. We honor courage. We honor bravery. We honor healthy success. We honor healthy giving. We honor the healthy virtues. And so I just want to show different ways we can get to this submission and why, at the end of the day, the submission is important. Because when we revere the virtues and when we revere the virtues and when we honor the virtues so much that the vices fall away, that means that when we look at the world that's trying to restrict, there's no other option left because we honor this so highly. We've already submitted to the virtues and we've said, there's no other way I kind of want to be. When we align our inside world to the virtues, no matter what vices come internally, when we've completely submitted to that, then there's no internal resistance anymore. So, for example, if there's a subject or a career that we really want to do, and we've just submitted to that's really what we wanted to do, and it's in a really highly conscious state. Or, for example, there's a healthy relationship that we want to do, that we want, and we're doing it consciously. It's not in a vice way that we're pursuing it, but it's a healthy relationship. Then, no matter what the outside world says, and no matter what restriction is there, we're going to carry forward our virtue into the external world. And whether that be in a form of a conversation, or saying no, or finding people that resonate with us, that we've aligned with the virtue so much inside that there's no internal resistance. And any external resistance that occurs, we meet it. And we don't meet it with so much resistance, actually, but we just meet it. Or we don't meet it with any internal resistance, but we just meet it with our virtue. And so it becomes very clear. I think that's why one of the quotes from the Stoic is like, the world turns from a man who knows where he's going, because they've basically submitted to the virtues and they've aligned themselves. And not necessarily with worldly knowledge, they know where they're going. That can happen too. But really, with this gyan, with this wisdom knowledge, that they know themselves, they know thyself very deeply. And so anything in the outside world, whether that be relating to sleep, social dynamics, exercise, healthy living, eating, doing the things you want to do in life, that you've won the battle for the soul, and now you are the soul, and there's no resistance internally, and so that everything that happens externally is not really a battle, but it's more of a meeting, and it's very a decisive meeting. And of course, the theory and everything is well and good, but actually to carry this forward, understand where the battle of the soul is occurring in you. And at the end of the day, why are we doing this? To live a life that's aligned with us, so we can fully express ourselves, so we can express our voice, our way of expression, and so we don't have any regrets in life as well. And so that we can go to bed at night and we can feel happy that we have lived aligned to ourselves. So I hope that was a fun breakdown for you guys. A lot of mythology in there, a lot of music in there, some Greeks, some Indians, the way we like it. Yeah, we touched on really that root of personal development, of really that essence of that hero essence of how we want to show up in the world and how we want to conquer our own selves. And I think that's why we look up to these people who do conquer their own souls. And the stars and celebrities in the world who've done that. I think that's why we looked up to them. So that was a quite hard thing to do. So yeah, I took some notes today. Thank you if you watched all for being with me. Hope you like this new setup. But again, everybody, thank you very much for watching this Wisdom Exchange. If you like it, leave a like. If you want to understand your own soul and your own essence, go down to the description box below. I've got a free personality package that you can complete 4 tests, understand your personality and the way you want to express and communicate in the world in depth. And if you want any help with that, or explore your own personality and how to pilot that a bit deeper, feel free to DM me on Instagram. But that's all for now. I wish everybody a good day ahead, and until next time. See ya.